Approaching the end of our Canadian analysis here, it is time to look for the Canadian GDP under the third part, specific data to look for when analyzing major economies. And one of the major economies we've looked at is Canada. The last economies out of the fifth analyzed: United States of America, Eurozone, United Kingdom, and Australia. Now time for Canada. This is the 14th indicator out of Canada, and as you can see, the GDP is one of the most important indicators used to evaluate or to analyze an economy, because this one is telling you exactly if an economy is expanding or contracting. Values higher than 0 signal an economy that it is still in expanding territory, while values lower than 0 show recessionary conditions. GDP shows the change in inflation-adjusted value of all the goods and services produced by the economy. Canada is unique in the sense that they release the fresh GDP data on a monthly basis. If you remember, in UK, even in US and Europe and Australia, the GDPs are being released in various forms, in 2 releases, in 3 releases, preliminary, intermediary, final, or fresh GDP, final GDP. All these kind of releases they are being given to the markets at I don't know, monthly interval or something like that. But in Canada, this is unique because they are releasing the fresh GDP data on a monthly basis. A quarterly GDP figure is also released. However, it's merely a summation of the monthly data. The most important things to take into consideration when looking at the GDP indicator are the release date, quarterly, about 60 days after the quarter ends. Now, this is not quarterly, of course. This is monthly. Just said that this is monthly on the Canadian GDP, and especially this is the difference between the Canadian GDP and the other GDPs. It is released by Statistics Canada, and it shows the change in the inflation-adjusted value of total goods and services produced by the economy. So keep in mind, this is inflation-adjusted value. It is quite important. A quarterly GDP figure is also released besides that one on the monthly basis, but it's just a summation or an add up of the monthly data. The release time is monthly, not quarterly like stated earlier. So monthly, about 60 days after the month ends. The release time is 12:30 GMT during the North American trading session. This is the first tier data, extremely volatile data, closely watched by traders. Looking at the past 6 months worth of data for the GDP, and you are seeing that while starting with February till July on the horizontal and the percentage change on the February, on the vertical, on February we had minus 0.2%, then plus 0.2, so a strong pickup in March and April, 0.2, 0.3, only to reverse for May, but June and July tends to look good. Now, if you remember, for July we had quite a strong pickup in the wholesale sales indicator, quite a strong pickup in the retail sales, core retail sales indicator, and now you are seeing also the GDP having let's say continuing a rising trend from the minus 0.2, then 0.1, now 0.2 with plus for July. So continuing a rising trend, the GDP, and this is being viewed as positive for the economy as a whole. The next and the last one, the last indicator we're going to take a look at when interpreting the Canadian economy is the RMPI, and the RMPI stands for Raw Materials Price Index. Why I chose to take a look at this RMPI index? Because the Canadian economy, like the Australian economy, they are both being influenced by raw materials, commodity prices. So everything that is happening in this area is influencing the economy, the Canadian economy, and the Australian economy, as a matter of fact. But because we are in Canada, we're going to take a look at this RMPI, but this one on the next recording as being the last indicator to watch, to analyze in Canada. What to keep in mind based on the Canadian GDP is that the release date is monthly, about 60 days after the month ends. The release time is 12:30 GMT during the North American trading session. First tier data, extremely volatile, and it is closely watched by traders. Now let's move on and end the Canadian analysis with the RMPI, please.